Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man.
Um, yeah, sorry about all that. It was a lot of confusion there on my end. I don't know why it wasn't showing you up in the chat for a while. Then my microphone wasn't working.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't
Um,
help you.
right. But no, yeah. Glad you were able to take the time, come on my show for me. I really
Sure.
appreciate it. Um,
So,
so
give me a little background about your show. What do you got? What are we doing?
So this is my actually my second podcast that I just started. It's one-on-one with Justin Diachemont. Basically, I just sit down with like musicians, actors, celebrity, any motivational speaker, anyone who has a story, and I just talk to them about their life and how they got to where they are now, and just
Cool.
everything about them.
I'm a motivational speaker.
I,
I feel very
I
motivated.
good. Yeah, I
Just
I
kidding.
definitely checked out some of your interviews you did, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Oh
think it will be
yeah.
a good
Yeah.
interview.
Cool. Cool, man. Um, so you have another podcast, right? This is
I
this
do.
is one of them. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And you've had that one for a little longer, I guess.
Yeah, I'm about 4 episodes in. I'm about to drop my fourth episode on the other one.
And you're in LA, California? Not
No,
LA.
I'm in Michigan.
Oh, you're 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know why I thought that. Okay, cool. Michigan. Wow.
Yeah.
It's got a. You guys are. Didn't you have a like a storm there recently in the Midwest? I know that Illinois did, but I don't know about Michigan.
Illinois, they got it more than we did. We just got a little bit of the rain,
Right.
but we
So
didn't get
you're
much
cool.
of yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool, man. Um. Yeah. So I'll just follow your lead. Whatever you want to do.
All right, so for my listeners, this is Jeffrey Bryan, aka Jeff Fishman. He is currently in the band Survivor, Eye of the Tiger. And he was in The Karate Kid, and he also did a movie called Hot Moves that I actually just watched today
Sorry.
before our interview. No, it was actually pretty good. Definitely an '80s movie.
Yeah. It was in the
Yeah,
'80s.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and I watched The Karate Kid too with my son today. He had never
Oh
seen
yeah.
it, so yeah, so I was
Wait.
like, might
Did
as
you
well
watch
watch
Karate
him.
Kid 2 or you just watched it also?
Oh, also,
Okay.
yeah, also, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it's all right.
But he liked it. I didn't let him watch Hot Moves though.
No, probably not. How old is he?
5.
No, it's
Yeah,
it probably wouldn't bother him, but he probably wouldn't get the jokes anyway.
right.
Maybe he
But
would. Maybe he's like really advanced, but I don't think it's right for five.
he's a little advanced, but yeah, I was just like, I better not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure it's right for a 25-year-old. it's it's
Overall though, like I liked it though. It wasn't bad.
yeah. Did you
Yeah,
really?
I
All
honestly
right.
did. It
You're
wasn't that
easy to
bad.
please.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I like low budget films
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
So like I don't know if was that a low budget film?
Are you like the
Um,
kind of guy that likes to wait to you go to like to car races just to watch them crash?
eh,
That's the reason for you to
sometimes.
go because that's the reason to watch this movie because it's you could call it a low budget movie. I I would say it was very low budget. Yeah,
Okay,
especially for a theatrical release. That's not cheap to do in the '80s.
right,
You know, a theatrical release. I mean, they didn't have YouTube movies, and things like that. You know, they didn't have
right,
anything like that. So you either paid the money you needed to pay, who you needed to pay to get in the theaters, or so there was always money involved back then. But
right.
sure, none of that money went to the filming because it was definitely a kind of guerrilla movie for the time.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
like movies like that though, so I actually enjoyed it.
Well,
It
that's
was
cool.
funny.
Well, thanks,
It was
man.
funny for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
But
it's definitely that movie could not be made today, even with all
oh,
the money in the world. There's just they couldn't get away with some of the they'd probably end up getting a protest or something about the movie.
more than
You know,
likely.
yeah, because
Yeah.
there was no concern about people's feelings back then.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's different times
Yeah,
for
totally.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, so
Yeah.
you were born and raised in LA, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm native.
Okay. So how'd you get your start? Like, did you start with the music or did you start with the movies?
No, no, it was music. It's always been
Okay.
music. The movies were um, kind of like, extra curricular. They weren't
Okay.
really intended. Um, when you're young and you're, 15, 16, and you're trying to break into the business, you pretty much take the opportunities that come your way. And,
Right.
and in those days, at that age, um, I was performing a lot. I was on stages a lot, and you know, the jobs sort of. I looked young, so the job. It wasn't like there was a. Um, it wasn't to the people like the agents and things like that. There was no difference. It was just entertainment business. So, the opportunities were acting opportunities, so I took them. But I wasn't necessarily prepared for them, and nor was I expecting to get them. They weren't part of my plan, but that's what happened. So to answer your question, I actually got acting roles professionally before music ones, but I was
Okay.
a musician since I was 11, 12 years old.
All right. Yeah,
That I was actually.
because you played clubs when you were younger, right? Around that age?
Yeah, I mean, my dad used to take me around town to all the open mics, and you know, uh, the places that I couldn't get in without a guardian, because I was
Right.
under 18, under 21. I mean, you had to be drinking age. So they kind of like snuck me in, did a song, and then I snuck out. So I did that for a few years, and performed anywhere I could, which wasn't like today. Which
Right.
if you can't find a venue to perform in today, you probably aren't paying attention, because it's the internet and there's everywhere else. So, um, outside of the COVID situation, I'm now at the moment it's a little weird, but um, yeah. So it was unusual to see a 13-year-old in a bar, you know.
Right. For sure.
But yeah, so I was doing that quite a long time before high school. You know.
Okay. So it's pretty much always mostly been music for you.
Yeah, it's pretty much been music. If you want to be specific, it was singing. That's what I did. It was singing.
Right.
Uh,
Because you're a
the music,
singer-songwriter.
yeah, the
Right.
keyboards and the piano, and the guitar didn't come till a few years after that. But it started out as me wanting to sing. It was fun, and I got a lot of attention, and um, I don't know, it seemed like something I was good at. So I just kept doing it. It was just exciting. But I realized real quickly, probably within a few years of doing that, and maybe going to high school for a first year, so I realized I got to sing my own songs. And
Hmm.
so that's when I started to push to learn guitar and piano. So I was kind of late to the guitar piano game. I probably didn't. I learned guitar and piano around the same time, about 14, 15. I started, but it was a few years after I had already been singing for a while. So, um, most, I would say a lot of, working musicians they grow up and play an instrument, they usually started younger,
Right.
at least with that instrument. With singing, I started pretty young, but it was a secondary feature for me, because it was like, well, wait a minute, if I learn how to play an instrument, then I could write my own songs. So that was the
Hmm.
whole reason I pushed to do that. And I didn't really discover the piano until after I already learned how to play guitar and realized it was okay. I was learning it. I was okay at it. Um, but there was a piano in the house. I really wanted to play it, and I had already studied classical harmony, and I knew I could kind of like read and write, but I couldn't apply it to an instrument because I didn't learn it that way, like most people. I
Right.
learned it just from reading singing charts, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And anyway, make a long story short, I kind of found the piano and was like, well, why didn't I discover that years earlier? So I ended up piano is, where I've been ever since. You know.
Do you like the piano better than guitar?
Well, I mean, in terms of for me personally, in terms of what I resonate with, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
I play guitar in bands as well as piano, but primarily now I'm hired as a piano player, a keyboard player, and you know, as it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like I was 14 or 15 and started working on piano and going, okay, that's my instrument. It really
Right.
wasn't. Songwriting, singing, that was what I was planning on doing. So a lot of the bands I was in when I was in 18, 19, I didn't even play keys in the band. I would play it in the studio, recording and writing, but when we got on stage, we'd have a keyboard player, you know. And it wasn't until I started my own bands. I had like the Jeffery Bryan band. I had different versions of it through the years in the early '90s, and I was playing keyboards and guitar. So I'd get up, I'd sing songs with the band with the guitar, and then I'd go and sit at the piano. So I ended up incorporating both. But at that point, I still didn't see myself as quote a keyboard player. I was just they were tools. They were just tools I was using to enhance whatever we were doing, whether it was songs or you know part of the band. And then as time went on, I became more and more uh, involved in piano jobs and things. So kind of that path turned again, and now people know me as a keyboard player, and they forget that I sing and do other things, but
Mhm.
I'm all those things.
Okay. Do you still sing and write on like your own time?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
So
That's never stopped.
right. So we'll jump into the movie scene real quick before we get back to the music. How did you get the role in The Karate Kid?
Well, it was because of music. In fact, all of my acting accidents happened because of music. You know,
Really?
again, well from performing. I was in a show that I had found called Too Short for Primetime Players, and it was this little like variety show that these people were putting on at the Roxy on Sunset
Okay.
on Sundays for kids shows. So they would come in and kids parents would pay to have a birthday party at the Roxy, and they'd get the show. And the show was, there were kids from 5 years old up to like my age, which was like 16 or 17. And the funny thing is I did it because it was great experience. Every week I was playing on a big stage. I got to write songs for it. I was performing. I tried things out that I probably wouldn't have tried out if I were doing my own show, kind of thing. So it was great experience, and I did that for a few years, and then it got really popular in LA, and so they did a news segment on it, kind of newsworthy thing. And from there, a the Merv Griffin show, which was like the Johnny Carson show, similar. Um, Probably too young to remember Merv Griffin, but he was a nationally broadcast talk show, just like
Mm-hmm.
Fallon or something.
Right.
And they did a segment on this show, and they invited a few of the performers, including myself, to come on and sing a song. So I sang on national TV at the age of like 16 or 17, and
Okay.
I did that, and because of that, some of the kids that were in the show, they had managers, and a lot of them were actors, and they were just all entertainers.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I managed to this manager wanted to hook me up with some agencies, and I'm like, well, great. What would that be for? And he's like, well, for acting. And I'm like, but I'm not an actor. And he was like, well, you are now. So I did it. I went on the interviews, and I got the first movie I got was Hot Moves. It wasn't Karate Kid, and Hot Moves was this little summer movie I got fresh out of high school, because I was going out on interviews for a long time, for like
Mm-hmm.
about 6, 7, maybe 8, 9 months, but I hadn't turned 18 yet. And they
Okay.
kept telling me, as soon as you turn 18, you're going to start booking these gigs, because they don't. If you're 17 and you're in Hollywood looking for work, Unless you're
Mm-hmm.
already sort of known and a star or something, you're not going to get the job until you turn 18. It's too expensive
Okay.
because they have to have a social worker or somebody on set, and it's just like paying two salaries. So they
Right.
try to avoid it. At least they did in the 80s. And so by the time I turned 18, the floodgates open. I started getting the jobs I was interviewing for, and it was Hot Moves. And then I did that, and I just interviewed for this little 2-week part on Karate Kid. I didn't even know what it was at the time, and it was supposed to be for a walk on or something. And it ended up being 8 months, but it was originally sold to me as a
Okay.
2-week deal, which they later renegotiated. And anyway, that's how I got it. They were looking for
Okay.
they had, I don't know how familiar you are. Well, you just watched Karate Kid, you said, right?
Yeah.
You and your kid watched Karate Kid the other day.
Right.
Well, if you remember Freddie, because it's fresh in your mind probably. So remember
Mm-hmm.
Freddie? He's the
Yeah.
kid that Daniel Larusso met at his apartment.
Right.
You remember in
His
Reseda?
neighbor.
Yeah. Well, he had
Yeah.
a group of friends. Huh?
His
Yeah, his
neighbor in the
neighbor.
movie.
He had
Yeah.
a exactly. Yeah, he was his this guy that he went. Apparently, they went to the same school and whatever. And that his name was Freddie, and Freddie had a group of friends, and I'm among those group of friends. There was
Right.
me, Freddie, who was Israel Warby, another guy named Ken Daly, another guy named Tom Fridley, and Frankie Avalon Jr. So the five of us were like Freddie's gang, but none of us were karate people. I mean, they didn't have us learning karate. The script was a lot longer than 90 minutes. It
Yeah.
was there were other relationships that they were going to explore. But as time went on, I mean, obviously they were going to do that because they extended our contracts.
Right.
But as time went on with filming of the movie, I guess they realized that they just didn't need the extra stuff. So there were a ton of scenes that got redacted and cut. And, unfortunately, I didn't get as much face time as I expected to from working on a movie for 8 months. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what happened.
What was the
Kind of cool,
experience like though on
actually.
set?
Well, you mean in terms of what it was like with all those actors
Yeah,
and all
like
the
what all
other
the
people that were
actors, the
there?
crew, and everything. Yeah. Just how was the overall
Yeah.
experience of doing
Well,
that movie?
it was fun. I mean, it certainly was an unusual experience for me because coming from Hot Moves was this little low budget movie with, a cast of maybe 10, total of us,
Mm-hmm.
the four main guys and then a few extra actors that there it was, there weren't it wasn't a big cast, small budget movie. And it was actually a lot of fun because everybody on the movie was sort of kind of had a hand in directing the movie.
Okay.
It was not professional compared to this Columbia Pictures, extravaganza that Jerry Weintraub had put together. And so I get to the set, and it's a totally different deal. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're compartmentalized. You only really on the big movies with the and it for the time in the 80s, it wasn't a particularly large budget. I can't remember the exact number, so don't quote me on it, but it was somewhere under $10 million to make the first Karate Kid. And
Okay.
that's not considered a big, blockbuster budget for a movie even in the 80s. I mean, they were bigger than
Right.
that. And it was considered to be a big studio low budget film. Of course, Karate
Okay.
Kid 2 and 3, they were bigger budgets, but this wasn't. And there were no real stars in Karate Kid 1. I mean, Ralph had just come off of maybe Outsiders, Ralph Macchio,
Right.
but he wasn't like a household name quite yet. Pat Morita came from Happy Days and from his stand-up routine. So I mean, there were known faces, but they weren't household names per se.
Right.
So there were no like big star salaries that they were paying at that time. Um, and so everybody felt kind of on an equal footing. It wasn't like some major two-time Oscar-winning lead was in the movie. It was we were all just pretty young, and for most of us it was our first or second jobs, including the Cobra Kai guys. And but interestingly, I mean, since you asked the atmosphere on the set, it's probably important to mention that John Avildsen was the director of the movie, and
Mm-hmm.
John Avildsen was known for directing Rocky. That was
Right.
his thing. And it
Mhm.
wasn't really an accident that he was there because because Jerry Weintraub had put this movie together, and Jerry Weintraub's team also produced the Rocky series. So it was all the same group of people
Mhm.
behind the scenes, for the most part. And John was, you just a really talented guy. And one of the things that and I hadn't experienced this coming from a small budget movie like Hot Moves, he wanted uh, an atmosphere of fear on the set. This sort of this adversarial kind of vibe where, you know, he didn't want Ralph having lunch with the guys
Mhm.
if he's gonna get his ass kicked in the next scene from the same people. It's just he wanted that to, if you were on set, you were pretty much in character, or at least
Okay.
he didn't want the protagonist to interfere with the, you know what I mean.
Right.
He didn't want it. He wanted to keep that kind of vibe going through it. So there was a it was coming from a fun kind of happy-go-lucky kind of experience with the Hot Movies. I came to this movie and everybody was freaking serious, and kind of, you didn't know if they liked you or not because they were in character
Right.
most of the time. So I had met William Zabka prior to him getting Karate Kid, just from another movie audition. And plus he went to El Camino High School, and I went to Taft, so we were only a few miles. We lived a few miles apart, and so I knew some of the people just from going on interviews and stuff. But on the set, I didn't know who he was. You know what I mean? It was
Right.
like
Totally
it
different
wasn't
person.
somebody I was gonna wasn't somebody yeah, I wasn't somebody I was gonna hang out with in high school. So we didn't talk on the set. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of weird. But as soon as they hit wrap, and we wrapped for the day, I mean, we were all friends again. Everybody was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" But on the set, it was kind of cold. It was really kind of uh, um, tension, a lot of tension on
Okay.
the set,
Interesting.
which I'm sure was intentional. Yeah,
More than likely to keep that fear in everybody that they
yeah.
wanted.
I mean, it makes sense. It made
So,
for a good movie.
right. It was
Now,
great
what's
movie.
interesting though is that what what's interesting is that uh, even though there was this tension among the Cobra Kai's and the Freddy's Gang guys and a few of the other actors, they were walking around the set. We would talk now and then. I talked to Pat many times. Pat Morita, hung out with
Mhm.
him because he was different. He didn't act that way.
Right.
He said
What
screw
was he
it.
like as a
He was
person?
like happy. He was he was quite he was the kind of guy where if you didn't have to know you, he would just make you feel real comfortable. He
Right.
was always laughing and had a joke for everything. Was really pleasant. I remember my experience with him was always like, if I was on the set quite a bit, but most of the
Mhm.
time I was waiting. Are they going to do the scene I'm in? Are they not? And I would have to, I was contracted to be there for the whole day. So it wasn't really um it wasn't really fun all the time. But with Pat wasn't working and he was on the set, we chatted up, and he was always fun to talk to. What's interesting though is that his character was, had a lot of layers to it. He was really,
Mhm.
unexpectedly brought an enormous amount of complexity to that character, which they needed. And I don't think it was expected of him, or at least it wasn't expected from the audience, because they knew him as Arnold from Happy Days and his
Right.
stand up. He had not done what you would call a serious role up until then.
Okay.
So, but he was great. I wish he was still around. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to hear like how he's a great person, cuz like when you watch movies and like you think of celebrities, you get inside your head like how are they in real life? Like are they nice? Are they assholes, you know? So
Yeah.
it's good like
Yeah.
you see him, you think Mr.
I
Miyagi,
mean,
you
but
know, you hope he's a nice person.
well, when it I don't know if that matters so much. I mean, the truth is that they have a job to do,
Right.
and like in, let's take some of the Cobra Kai guys, Tony Odell, or William Zabka or any of them, their job was to be, the school bullies.
Hmm.
So you're kind of expecting them to be dickheads and kind of rude,
Right.
and not you know what I mean. So it's kind of it's acting, and
Hmm.
it's hard for me personally though, but because I was in a situation where I kind of felt um unprepared for what I was going to be asked to do because I was a musician.
Hmm.
And a lot of these guys, they came from, they did high school plays or they did acting classes or whatever the hell they did before me. I mean, before they came along and I met them. My only experience on stage was performing, singing, and
Right.
I didn't really have any acting background to fall back on. So I was a little uncomfortable. I didn't need to be, but in retrospect, looking back, that's how I felt. And so if you take that feeling and merge it with the fact that everybody's got this forced tension on the set, it
Hmm.
was like, shit, I got to go to work again today. I don't know if I want to do this.
Right.
I could not wait for that movie to be over. That's true.
Huh. So do you watch the new series that came out with the Cobra Kai? Have you watched any of
Yeah, I
it?
have. Yeah, I've seen.
Have you?
I've
I
watched
haven't. I haven't started it
two
yet.
seasons of it.
Okay. Is it good?
Oh yeah, you got it. Do you have Netflix?
Yeah. I saw they're coming to
Well,
Netflix.
it's coming to Netflix.
I
Yeah,
think
I think a lot
I
of
think
people are waiting for
end
that
of
because
August.
not everybody wants to spend $30 a month on whatever it costs on YouTube. Um,
Right.
but yeah, it's finally going to Netflix. I have watched it. I have. Sorry, I'm gotta fix that.
Right.
I have a couple flashback scenes that I'm in the first
Really?
season.
Okay.
So yeah, it's
Huh.
kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna watch it. I think it said
it's good.
August 28th it comes to Netflix.
Yeah, there's
So
some. I don't know if all the seasons are coming right away. They're talking about maybe the first season and then starting
I
up
think
with
it
the
said
new
one and
season
two.
for 1 and 2, and then third one in
Yeah.
January or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very cool. So
yeah, yeah. It's
you really
good.
only
It's
had those
actually good
movies.
because
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna give the compliment to Cobra Kai producers. They did a good. I think they're doing a great job with it. I mean, from what I can tell, you know,
Right.
it's nice that they're not that they're continuing the story and not just rehashing some old stuff. I mean, it's really it's groundbreaking in a lot of ways, and they're not trying to they're not concerned about hurting people's feelings or being PC. They're
Right.
kind of staying true to the way the characters were in the '80s and how they've lived their life for the last 30 years. It's actually it's pretty cool. That's the best part of it, in my opinion.
Very
You know.
cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check it out. Um, but as I was saying, so basically you only did Hot Moves and Karate Kid, right? Movie wise.
Film wise, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what that was my extent of my huge acting career.
Did you do auditions, like more auditions throughout the 80s for
Oh
movies?
yeah, of course. I auditioned for Breakfast Club. I auditioned for Red Dawn. Um, I auditioned for a couple John Hughes films. I can't remember them. Uh, I auditioned for uh, there was a what's the name of um, I can't remember Michael J. Fox's big series. I auditioned for that.
Oh, okay.
Um, what's the name of that? That was a very famous series. I can't remember the name of his series. Anyhow,
I
um,
can't either off the top of my
but
head.
yeah, for some reason it eludes me. I don't know. I keep thinking Facts of Life, but
I
it
can
wasn't Facts of
picture
Life.
it.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Anyhow, but yeah, I auditioned for quite a bit of stuff. I did a couple walk-ons. There were some shows I did on different series. I did a play. Um, I didn't do a whole. I mean, it was a lot of work all in 1 or 2 years.
Okay.
Within like a 18-month period. It was most of my acting stuff, but I wasn't doing music, and that kind of pissed me off. And I kind of felt like I was gypping myself or something wasn't right, and it wasn't because um, like I said, I wasn't really pursuing an acting career. And after Karate Kid, I spent 8 months kind of, sitting on the sidelines. Yes, I was being paid and it was fine, but I wasn't, in my mind at 18, I didn't feel like I was moving the needle.
Right.
I was just sort of sitting there. And so I was relieved when Karate Kid was releasing me the contract, and we moved on. And I thought, okay, well, now I've got a little bit of a pretty good resume. And then I couldn't get any more work for some reason. Uh, I don't know why. It probably had to do with the fact that, uh, those teenage movies were sort of ran their course. The
Mm-hmm.
Times at Ridgemont High and Porky's and stuff like that kind of came and went. And by this time, maybe Hollywood had moved on a little bit, and it was a struggle. And I realized if I'm going to be broke pursuing this acting, I might as well be broke doing what I know how to do and love. So I went back to
Right.
music, like full
Okay.
time. I just kind of, screw this. This is nuts. So that's kind of, in my mind, I sort of got back on track. I mean, had I booked more jobs after Karate Kid, I probably would have done them, of course. I mean, it
Right.
was, for an 18-year-old, it was good money, and I was working. But um I can't say I was particularly happy, you know yet.
Right.
Know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I get it. Uh, so do you any like crazy stories you have from like acting from your acting career?
Like, in particular,
Just any, yeah.
like
Just
Karate Kid in particular, or just off the
Karate
top of
Kid,
my head, anything I can think of.
hot moves, anything.
I did a well, I did a it's an acting related I just thought of this. There's an acting related story that's more music related, but it's got an acting component to it.
Okay.
I was the people that were producing that kid show I told you about earlier that we played at the
Mm-hmm.
Roxy. Um, the guy that produced it was also the road manager for the band Seals and Crofts back in the,
Okay.
who knows when, like in the 1800s. And anyway, so he had a lot of music connections. Apparently, what he was trying to do at this one point is he somehow knew Patrick Swayze's mom and convince
Interesting.
her, because not a lot of people know this, but Patrick Swayze was taught to dance primarily by his mother. She
I
was
think
a,
I
a
did know
professional
that
dance
actually.
instructor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he may have told that story in interviews. And so I got hired. He asked me if I wanted. They didn't have money to do a big budget for the music, but they were willing to, pay me something to write original music for this home video. And back in those days, home video really meant home video. I mean, it was small
Right.
budget and it would go straight to the video store. There was
Mm-hmm.
no, you know, it was no, it was no like, Sundance Festival or something, you know.
Right.
So it was just a home movie thing. Anyway, um, so what was interesting is that I actually met Patrick Swayze working on this, because he was convinced, he got convinced to come in and help his mom and did a cameo on it.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I was really he was really pleasant to talk to. I never had the opportunity to work with him or audition with him on some of the movies that he was in, like Red Dawn. I actually
Mm-hmm.
did audition with some of the guys that got it, like C. Thomas Howell and a few other people. And
Okay.
I got real close to getting that movie. And Patrick Swayze was in that movie too, but I
Right.
didn't meet him until I met him on this set of his mom's wacky Swayze dancing video that I was writing music for.
Okay.
Um, but I got a ton of Karate Kid stories. I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff. I'll tell you one. Like for example, remember I was telling you that there was a lot of tension on the set, but
Right.
after the set, and I don't know why this is the case, but it seems like every actor I've ever met really, truly, in the bottom of their heart, really wants to be a musician. they all they all want to pick up a guitar and jam. And so
Right.
when we were done, because Frankie Avalon's kid was in the Karate Kid, Frankie Avalon Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And so after we would finish, we were shooting up in a beach. Remember the motorcycle scenes where they came down the hill?
Right.
On those beach scenes, that was in a beach called at a beach called Leo Carrillo Beach, up north of Ventura, up in here in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us really lived that far from those locations. I lived probably 10 miles inland
Okay.
from there. And Frankie Avalon Jr. didn't probably live 5 miles from me. Frankie Avalon.
Mm-hmm.
They lived in
Right.
Hidden Hills. I lived in like Woodland Hills. It was next door practically. So we would all and William Zapka lived right there, like maybe a mile from my house. So we were all
Okay.
kind of neighbors and just kind of didn't know that, but we met on the set. And you play guitar? Oh, you play piano? All right. So we would go to Frankie Avalon's house after a shooting, not talking to each other. And then we'd
Mm-hmm.
go to his house and we would pick up instruments and, you know, smoke a few joints and then jam. I'm sure it sounded like shit,
Like,
but we
I'm
had a
sure it
good
was
time.
great. Why didn't y'all start a
Yeah,
band?
those were fun. I mean, it was the Karate Kid band, and we were just screwing around. I don't
Right.
recall it ever sounding good, and that wasn't the point. It was just to let
Right.
off some steam at the
Exactly.
end of the day. But it was cool because I met Frankie Avalon. He showed up. I don't know where he came in from. It's like, hey, honey, I'm home, kind of thing. It's Frankie Avalon, he walks in.
Right.
I'm like, holy shit. Um, yeah, it was kind of cool. A lot of things happen like that now I'd be like, holy shit. But back then it was like, oh, just another day, you know,
Right.
it's
But
kind
yeah,
of
looking
weird.
back on it, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking back on it, it's way cooler because it's like, oh man, really? That happened. Wow. That's kind of cool.
Right. So so back to like the you're a composer, right? Too? You compose?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Do do,
I'm a
do you
songwriter.
still
Yeah.
yeah, do you still do that for 'cause I read that you did it for some TV shows and stuff like that. Do you still do
Yeah.
that?
Oh
What
yeah,
shows do
yeah.
you
Whenever I can,
Okay.
just different shows. I mean, I write for libraries. I also, I've done so many, reality show music and stuff like that. Um, there was a couple feature films I did, the small ones, and then some of them didn't get off the ground, whatever. But yeah, yeah, I still do that if I can get the work. Absolutely,
Okay, very cool.
it's all part of
Yeah,
writing.
right. But but yeah, like is it hard to juggle the trying to do that and then working with the band that you're in now,
Well, if
Survivor?
if I'm on the road, yeah, yeah, actually it is. If you're on the road, you're kind of on the road.
Right.
I mean, you can write in your hotel room and maybe get some things done here and there, but um, for me, I'm sort of um, I'm kind of, I try to be as multi as I can, but when I'm working for somebody and I'm on the road with them, I try to give them my attention, and
Right.
and it needs my attention because it takes my attention to do what I do, and being on the road is not easy or glamorous. I guess it can be for some bands that, in their heyday, but if you're talking about Survivor or something, it's a lot of flying and a lot of sitting
Yeah.
in hotel rooms and waiting and stuff. So, I mean, it can take its toll on you, physically and mentally. So you need to be in good shape and you need to have a good outlook and you need not to be too weighed down with a lot of stuff. So that's why during this time period that I'm locked down, so to speak, um, we're not touring, we're not playing. Uh, I've taken some time to finish my own songs that I've written and get back to things that I didn't really know when I was going to complete because I was busy, you know.
Okay. So when you're out touring, how many show you've been in the band what, 3 years now? You joined in
Roughly, yeah,
2017, right?
2017. Yeah, yeah, 3 years. Yeah.
Right. Have you toured every year since you've been with the band?
Yeah. Yeah, I met them and within weeks we were on the road. That was it, you know.
Okay. So
So, I met
how'd you
them
get the
in 2017 and then huh?
I was gonna say how'd you get in how'd you become a band member?
Uh well, I have no idea how they found me, to be honest. I don't have a great story for this one. Uh Truth is, I'm not kidding you, man. I just got an email
Really?
from somebody, turns out to be somebody that in their management team, but I got an email that had one sentence and it says, "Would you like to play keyboards for the band Survivor? Would you be interested?" And I was like, "That's strange. That's a strange
Right.
email to get. You know, you don't see those very often.
Right.
And plus, especially since I didn't know anybody in the band personally, and
Mm-hmm.
turns out I actually knew the keyboard player that was playing with them at the time. I didn't know I knew him, but I have many friends. We're all kind of same group of musicians in LA, and I'm not really sure how exactly they found me, but they they checked me out. They knew who I was, and so I flew into Chicago like within weeks from that email, and
Mm-hmm.
that was it. You know, we moved on from there. It was pretty fast.
Interesting. What?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
like,
mean,
go ahead.
no, I was waiting for you.
Oh, sorry. So obviously I'm not a musician or anything. I'm not musically talented at all. So like what's it like performing up on stage? Like what's a concert like? Like
Uh,
performing?
well, a, a con. You, again, you got to be more specific because I mean, if you're talking about a concert with Survivor, is different than a concert with other bands that I play with that may not have the same legacy or the same famousness.
True.
So you want to be specific.
Both. Both.
Survivor is a very different. All right, well, being on stage is fucking incredible. I mean,
I
that's what we
bet.
live for, you know.
Right.
Um, that's the whole reason why I get out of bed. That's why it's a little hard to get out of bed lately. We're not doing it right now, so
Right.
that's my whole life. But yeah, I mean, being on stage is for me. I can only speak about me. You know, I mean, other
Right.
people may have other reasons, but for me, it's very freeing. You know, it's sort of you know, I I tend not to analyze as much when I'm in performing mode, and it's so it frees up my brain, you know, because when I'm in rehearsal or I'm thinking about it, or you know, I'm constantly trying to do whatever, but it's the one time I kind of tune out and just vibe in, you know. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's a really cool place to be. I wish I could create that atmosphere more often in life than just on stage, but um, it's a healthy hour and a half, you know,
Right.
uh, a healthy, like, mental healthy. But now, as far as Survivor goes, now you got to understand, Survivor has been around 40 years.
Right. That yeah.
Yeah, I ain't the first keyboard player they've seen. Okay.
Right.
um, and, I don't know if you remember much of their material, but obviously the Eye of the Tiger. But
Right.
beyond that, they had a lot of hits. They had High on
Mm-hmm.
You, Can't Hold Back, Search Is Over. I mean, they had some pretty big 80s monsters,
Right.
and uh, similar to Journey,
Mm-hmm.
kind of in that realm. And that come with that comes a certain amount of respect that you want to give to the material. So there's not only getting on stage with the exhilaration of fans that they don't care about you. They just want to hear
Right.
Eye of the Tiger, man. They just want to hear the songs and they want to hear them good.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pressure's kind of off you to be the guy they're coming to see, but the pressure's on you to make sure that they hear what they remember when they were 16 years old, if you
Right.
get it. And
Right.
so that is a different kind of performing. It's a different kind of exhilaration. I kind of see myself as a steward of history, when I'm playing with them. I
Mm-hmm.
have this sort of necessary responsibility in my mind to try to capture the sound and recreate what they're expecting. I'm not supposed to really be um, too you don't want to stand out so much that it wasn't that takes them out of the fantasy of Survivor in their heyday. You want to
Mm-hmm.
try to maintain that. So it's really, in a way, it's kind of a musical acting role, in a way. um,
Right.
but so that's how they're different. When I do my other bands and a few other things that I do on stage, it's a little different. I'm singing, I'm playing guitar, I'm playing keyboards, um, and people are there to see me, and so that's a different kind of vibe. you know
Okay.
it's just a different kind of approach to how you're going to perform, and the atmosphere is a little different. So I don't know if that answered
Yes.
your question, but they're
No, it
very
did.
different in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah, I can see how they're
All right.
different. With Survivor being like as big as they are and have been in the past,
Yeah.
and then performing
Yeah.
with
I mean,
your other bands, and I can definitely.
yeah, that don't have 40 years of history, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, there's definitely
Yeah.
the different
It's
atmosphere of the crowds and shit like
well, you got to
that.
remember the people that come see them. Yeah, the people that come see them are going to be demographically, they're going to be like 35 to 50, you
Right.
know, kind of age group, and they're going to be bringing their kids, you know, a lot of times, and they want to hear songs that they remember when they were in high school.
Right.
And so, you know, you don't want to disappoint them. You want them
Hmm.
to, you want the songs to bring back those memories, and that's how you know you're successful, if you're able to do that. You don't want to, you're not trying to reinvent them, not trying to that would be a different kind of thing, and they may choose to do that at some point. Who knows? Maybe they'll make a new record, and maybe we'll do something like that. But right now, when we go out, it's all about those hit songs and all about what people remember from the glory days, and
Right.
so I'm honored to have the opportunity to be a part of that, even
Hmm.
in a kind of minor way. But you know, it's kind of cool. I like it.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely I would see it as definitely being a big deal. Just being getting the opportunity to perform with a band with that
Yeah.
name. Like it's a big name in music.
Well, it is a big deal. I always take it very seriously,
Hmm.
and for a keyboard player, there's not too many better rock bands to be in. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
mean, there's in those days you had your hair metal bands and your bands like Guns N' Roses or Warrant or you know White Snake or whatever.
Right.
Not a ton of keyboards.
Hmm.
Motley Crue, where are the keyboards? They just
Exactly.
didn't have them. But then you had bands like Foreigner, REO Speedwagon, Styx, um, Journey, Loverboy. These bands incorporated In Excess. They all incorporated, sax, piano, and synths, and all kinds of shit. And so that era is got to be exciting for a keyboard player. I
Right.
mean, if you're going to be in a retro '80s band, you want one that's got a lot of keys in it. So it was especially exciting for that reason. You know,
Yeah. Do you have a
yeah.
favorite song to perform on stage with Survivor?
With them, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, there's a couple good ones, but for me, I think it's "The Search Is Over." Um, it's a ballad, "Search Is
I was
Over,"
you have
and
a good
I
you
get a
have a good
piano
solo in
solo.
there, right? Yeah.
Oh, you knew about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say you
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know the song, so I was gonna say you have a
Yeah, well,
good
I don't.
solo in
There's
there.
no solo in the song. Yeah, there's no solo in the song, but
Hmm.
there's a solo that they let me do before we play the song, which is kind of cool. And I'm the only one on stage when it's happening, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's why it's my favorite song to play, because it's a piano song, and I kind of get to like be myself for a little while. You know,
Right.
so
So
it's gracious of them.
all right. So like with touring, you've obviously opened up for bands before. Who's your favorite band you've ever opened up
Yeah.
for?
Um, I would say, you mean in all time? Because I have different reasons for different things. I mean, certainly it was ELO. Must have been a
Okay.
fun. We There was a club called the China Club, not the one in New York, but in LA we had a China Club too, and it was a awesome place to play. I mean, they had a great sound system. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't the China Club. It was the Strand. None of these clubs are around anymore, which is really kind of sad. But it was
Yeah.
it was the Strand in Redondo Beach, and the Strand was a very cool place to play. And we were a regular band there, my own band, and they would call us in to open for a lot of national acts. Really because they liked us, and
Hmm.
they gave us the opportunity to get the exposure. And I think ELO was a big thrill to see them. You know,
Very cool.
I'm a huge ELO fan, always have been. But more recently, with Survivor, we've opened up for and vice versa. They've opened up for us. We've opened up. Loverboy was a lot of fun too to see them.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember Loverboy, but um, Survivor, used to tour with regularly with Brian Adams and Loverboy, a lot of Canadian bands for some reason, and REO Speedwagon and Styx and various bands of that, Foreigner, and so they used to. Rick Springfield was another one, and they used
Okay.
to tour together. Sometimes Survivor was the headliner, sometimes the other bands were, and so nowadays if there's a double bill, it's usually one of the bands that they had toured with in the 80s,
Okay.
usually. So, yeah. So it's kind of cool because, I mean, I met Lou Graham, from Foreigner
Mm-hmm.
at a show that we opened up for um, in St. Louis last year or the year before. And that was a big thrill. I've been a huge Lou Graham fan,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a real thrill to meet him while
Right.
I was working and not just as a fan. You know what I mean?
Right.
Blue Oyster Cult, that was another great band. Man, they still sound great. We opened for
Yeah.
them last year.
Okay.
So there's just, I mean, I'm getting to like, Survivor's giving me an opportunity to kind of meet all the people in my record collection when I was 16 years old.
Right. And then
The ones that
like
are still
that's such a
alive.
cool thing to do.
It's
Yeah.
I was talking to my friend the other day, a musician friend of mine, about we were talking about Journey, and I don't know what we were talking about, but Journey came up, and we both were like, "Well, I saw Journey at da da da," da," and I said, "I remember seeing them at the Rose Bowl for Fourth of July in 1981, and the opening band was Blue Oyster Cult." And then it dawned on me, I met them just like 10 months ago when we opened for them, and it was the first.
Right.
I mean, the last time I ever saw or knew of them was when I first was introduced to them, not personally, but as a fan in the audience. And the next time I actually see them, I'm backstage with them, meeting them, and then we opened for them. Survivor opened up for them,
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And there's a couple bands like that, and people I never thought I would ever meet, but
Where you get the opportunity to.
that's what
That's
happens.
yeah, that's really cool, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so like you said, you still write and stuff. Are you now do you do your band and Survivor at the same time?
I have, yeah. I mean, I'm in a bunch of bands,
Okay.
working bands. So but Survivor's, look, when Survivor goes on the road or if we're busy, you know, we're
Right.
busy. I can't. I'm pretty much that's a priority because, there's a lot more moving parts with Survivor. I can't call them
Right.
up and say, hey, they're not doing that gig. You I'm
Right.
sure that would go over real well. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, but I'm in other bands. I'm in a band called the KTEL All Stars, and that is a cool band. We play all these songs from 1970 and 1979, all one hit wonders or the hits, not all one hit wonders, but some of those and the hits from those years. And we do
Okay.
it in a way we try to stay real true to the recordings, and using as many as the vintage instruments as we can. And that band tours quite a bit. Actually, we play all over the country
Really?
when we're not when we're not in this virus situation.
Right.
And so yeah, I do both. And that's
Okay.
what I was saying about writing. It's like I mean, in 2018 and 2019 even, I I'd come home from a couple weeks out with Survivor, and then uh I'd go right back out with another band, and then meet up
Okay.
with Survivor again. And so I wasn't home a lot.
Right.
Certainly not enough to sit down and go, oh, I'm write some songs now. You know,
Right. So
um,
it's got to be a
plus,
breath of fresh
writing
air.
songs is a different kind. I don't know. Yes. Okay. Sure.
Just
I
being
mean,
able to catch up on
I say that
songwriting and
kind
stuff
of
like that.
sarcastically. No, I love songwriting, and I'm glad I'm
Hmm.
getting a chance to finish a few things, but not under these circumstances. It would have
Right.
been nice
Yeah.
for me to elect to do that. I
Right.
just kind of I need to fill the void right now, and
Hmm.
just nobody's touring. there's
Right.
no shows.
Mm-mm.
So it's, I mean, I don't know. I have never thought I would live to see the day where an entire industry is grounded. And
Right.
many industries, but certainly the entertainment industry. They even
Yeah.
stopped shooting movies. I mean,
I know. It's
temporarily.
crazy.
So it's like, what the hell, man? It's just such a dystopian kind of thing going on right now. Um, it's got. I hope we figure our way out of this soon. You know.
Hmm. Do you have anything booked for 2021? Because I know that's when they're saying like concerts are going to start
Yeah.
happening again.
I I have a few shows booked this year, not with Survivor.
Right.
Um, Toward the end of the year, I think I have a New Year's gig, and I got a couple other things going on. But Survivor, I don't know what we're gonna do. You
Okay.
have to understand, bands of that level and up,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a lot more energy and moving parts to get going. So I mean, you just don't snap your fingers and go, yeah, we're going on the road. So
Right.
if I don't hear anything that if I don't hear if I don't get an itinerary or something by the end of this year, I will probably think it's safe to say that it'll be another year without on the road with them.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe the end of the year, 2021. I haven't, to answer your question directly, I have not heard of any gigs for Survivor coming up.
Okay.
And it's funny because 2020 was going to be a huge year.
Right.
I had my bags packed. I was
Oh,
out the
really?
door with in March when I got the call.
Wow.
Not to get on the plane, not to bother. Yeah, it was like
That's crazy.
we thought it was going to be a couple of weeks. You should see my calendar. Everything's just kind of shoved over, and then soon they just keep falling off the calendar now. So
Right.
now I've just wiped it clean. I said, screw it, we're not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah,
The
that's
world
crazy.
basically took a break.
It did.
It is
It's
crazy.
it's
Yeah,
it's
it's really
weird
hard.
times we're
Yeah,
living
it's
in.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah. When my
Yeah, what do
son,
you do? What
I
do you
work
do
for
for a living?
I work for Penske in diesel
Oh, the
trucking.
truck company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Has
work
it
in an
affected
on-site
you?
location. It did. For a while it didn't, because we're essential workers. So for a while, like I
Okay.
was still working, but in May, like business obviously took a hit because the rest of the country shut down. So in May,
Oh, right.
I got furloughed because I'm like the lowest one on the totem pole in my shop. So I ended up getting
Yeah.
furloughed for like 3 months. So I just went back to work at
Oh,
the end of
wow.
July. But
But they gave you your job back. That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was just
Yeah.
a
I know it's
temporary
pretty scary, man.
thing. It is, man,
Yeah.
and like trying to explain it to my son too. Like like I
Oh,
said,
yeah. How do you explain
he's
to a
5.
5-year-old?
Yeah, and he's just like, Daddy, can we go do this? Daddy, can we go do that? And I'm just like, we can't. Like we can't go
Right. How
anywhere
do you
really.
explain that?
And
He
it's
just
hard.
thinks his dad's mean.
He's actually more understanding than I. It was easier to try to explain to him as to why we can't do anything than I thought it would be. Like I really thought he would just be like, yeah, dad's being a dick. Like, but
Right.
he's
Yeah.
actually pretty. He's understanding about it, which is good.
Yeah.
But it's definitely turned him into a
That's
homebody
awesome.
though. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
now
Well,
that you
everybody,
can actually
really.
kind of go and do stuff, he doesn't want to. He just wants to stay home, play video games.
Uh-oh. That's
Yeah,
a bad
so
habit.
it is,
How do
but
you break it though? Right now it's hard. Is he going to go back to school?
we're gonna homeschool
Are
him.
you going to take him back to school? That's
Uh,
smart. Yeah.
not until all this shit goes away. We don't want to. I don't want to
I don't
send them to
blame you, man.
school.
I wouldn't send my kid if there was an option.
Yeah,
I'd be very uncomfortable. Yeah.
yeah. Not only
I
with
don't
just
know.
like with the virus going on, but like I don't want to send him there where he has to sit there all day and wear a mask, and
Yeah.
then
How
just
hard?
like
That's it. I mean, it's traumatizing for a 5-year-old. I would think.
yeah, like they can't do
Could be.
recess. They have to sit in one spot all day, eat their lunch in that spot, do their recess in that spot. You can't play with other kids.
No.
Like so
Yeah.
I'm just like
That's if you can't if you can't socialize, there's no real reason why you can't teach a 5-year-old what they're going to learn at school without that. You send them to school for socialization mostly at that
Right.
age, I would think, you know. And if you can't do that, then you're not really accomplishing anything that you can't provide at home,
Exactly.
you know. To me, that's my opinion.
No,
Most
I
of your
agree with you
opinion.
100%. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
hopefully this shit ends soon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, man. I feel you.
yeah, but
Yeah.
back to your music real quick. You got any stories about being on the road? I'm a big story guy. I like hearing
No.
stories.
You like stories.
I do.
Um, I mean, on the road stories. Like, what do I got? I mean, um, I'm trying to. You know, I get this weird story. It's not on the road. It's a weird acting story, but it involves music. You'll
Okay.
like this. I think it's cool. Um, it's kind of weird. During that time period, I was getting shuffled off to um, casting calls and stuff during that year. One of the back in those days, music videos were expensive to make. They were like making little mini movies. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they were either really expensive or they're really cheap, and they looked that way. So if you were like an artist that had a budget, it was like making a film. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and so they would send, they would set up a casting office and a production company just for a video, and you would be a legitimate casting call that your agent would send you on for a music video. So I got called, didn't know what it was. Music video. I'm like, oh, okay, some rock guy. We don't know who it is. So I get there and I wait and I'm waiting and they call my name just like a dentist's office. And I go back there and it's Dennis DeYoung from Styx. And I
Really?
must have lost my shit. I
Oh.
didn't get the job, by the way. I didn't get the job because I didn't care. I mean, first of all, Dennis DeYoung was my hero when I was
Mm-hmm.
16, 17 years old. I mean, I sang everything on their records. I had all their albums. Big Styx fan. Uh, yeah, it's funny. And so there's Dennis DeYoung sitting there, uh, and I'm supposed to do a scene with him. And I don't know if it's not, it wasn't a big hit. The song that he ended up doing on this video was for MTV. It was a song off his Desert Moon album. It was a solo album that he had put out. It didn't do that
Mm-hmm.
well, so it's not surprising if you don't remember it. But anyway, um, the one of the scene, it was a scene where he was coming back home and he was hadn't seen his kid in a while, and we had to play basketball and we had a hug and all kinds of weird shit. And I was like, I just wanted to talk to him about his keyboard rig and all the things that he was very nice at first, but I think they got annoyed with me because I wasn't didn't want to read the scene. I just kept
Right.
wanting to ask him questions about the gig.
I mean, why
And
not?
yeah, man. Oh my god, that was a kind of interesting. I left and I felt like, yes, I didn't get this one. I know it. I didn't care. I just didn't
Y-
care. I
Right.
met one of my heroes. You know.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, it's funny. 30 something years later, you know, we were playing we were playing Disneyland Orlando, uh, Epcot Center with Survivor
Mhm.
on one night, and then the night prior to us was Dennis DeYoung's Styx. You know,
Okay.
so it's kind of interesting. But yeah, so that was kind of cool. That was the best thing that came out of acting, meeting Dennis DeYoung
There you go.
and Karate Kid.
It, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely cool that like even for like someone for you, like you're technically a celebrity, so like for even it's cool to see like even celebrities get excited about meeting like their
Well, I
idols,
mean,
you
the
know?
reason why, well, you know, for most of us, and you too, probably, you know, you're grown up, you're listening to music. It's very, um, you know, that music, especially when you're 16 and you're going through all these things, music is a soundtrack to your life.
Right.
It you know really has an impact on you, and so you know if it's AC/DC or Van Halen or Styx or whoever it was at the time that got your attention, those people are important to you because they
Hmm.
brought this connection, and there may not actually be a real connection there, but we think there is one. So it doesn't really
Right.
matter what you end up going into, whether you go into music or some other job. You don't lose that giddiness. When you're meeting somebody that
Right.
that got you from this situation to that situation.
Right.
Uh, it can be a bummer for some people when they finally meet people that they think are these bigger in life people, and they're just kind of dicks or something. It happens,
Right. Yeah.
but which is part of the fantasy. You got to remember that these it is the music business, the
Mm-hmm.
entertainment business, and so
Right.
the face that they put on for the world. Same with me. I mean, this isn't how I act if I were on stage. I have a different kind of persona that you got the adrenaline running through you. You're a little different,
Right.
and that's what people see. So you can't expect to walk up to them at a mall and expect it. There's very few that are like that. I'm sure John Lennon or somebody might have that charisma all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a bunch that might, but most people are different in different
Yeah.
situations. you know
That's
yeah.
crazy. Um. Anyways, we'll wrap this up. But thanks for coming on, man. It was great getting to meet you, getting to talk to you.
Cool, man.
Um. I am
My
a.
pleasure. Thanks for taking the time on a Sunday.
Oh, no problem, man. This my.
when do you,
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, when do you think you'll air this? Are you gonna do it with video or just audio?
I'm actually gonna do audio and video. I'm gonna for this because my
Oh,
other podcast I just
I
do
would have combed my
audio.
hair had I known.
It
I would have combed my hair had I known.
looks good. But no, for
Oh,
this one
thank you.
I'm gonna start a YouTube channel and put these up there as
Oh, okay,
well.
cool.
But hopefully soon
All
I'm
right.
trying to get around like 4 episodes recorded before before I air.
Yeah,
But
you want some.
I got
You
a
want some
couple.
content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I got some other ones lined up. So within the I think within towards the end of September, I'll be
Good.
ready to
Cool,
air, and
man.
I'll be able to shoot you guys the link to it and everything, so you can have it and see
Okay.
it.
Well, Justin, I appreciate talking to you, man. It was a lot of fun, and um, good luck with your son and everything. With this situation,
I
and
appreciate it.
hopefully the next time we talk, it'll be under better circumstances, right?
Right. Yeah. Hopefully,
Yeah.
when you guys start touring again, you come to Michigan, and I'll come see a show.
Oh, dude,
I,
we play in Michigan every year.
do
Yeah.
you? Where do y'all usually
Um,
play at?
w- w- um, I'd have to look it up. What cities did we play in Michigan? We played in Detroit, actually, on the water. Um,
Okay.
oh,
Right
we did it for
downtown.
GM. There was
Oh, at
the
the GM
GM
building.
company, the
Hmm.
General Motors, the headquarters. We played right there.
Oh
Um,
wow.
like it was Kalamazoo. We've played there, a barbecue festival in Kalamazoo.
Okay.
We
I'm
play
sure
there
you
every
guys
year.
have probably
Survivor
played DTE too in Clarkston. A lot of bands go there. It's an outdoor
sounds familiar.
venue.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't do it like on one year, we'll do it the next year
Right.
because they alternate a lot. But Michigan is, I mean, they're all from Chicago. These
Right.
guys,
So I mean, it's
and
a
except me,
yeah.
and yeah, and so that whole corridor, everything from Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Kansas, uh, Nashville. I mean, not Nashville, St. Louis down
Hmm.
there. Um, yeah, we play there a lot. I mean, that's where most of their gigs are that aren't, on the coasts, obviously. But
Right. But yeah,
you can
I'd love to
guarantee
come
we'll
see
be
a
playing in
show.
the Midwest.
I'll
Yeah, you know what?
definitely
As
have to
soon as
go.
I'm keeping track of, I'm keeping track of who I'm talking to,
Okay.
and I'll make a note. I'll send you. I'll make sure you can get in.
Oh,
I'll
perfect.
send you
I would
tickets.
love that. Yeah, that'd be cool. And
Yeah,
even
my
your other
pleasure,
band,
man. Yeah.
I'd love to see your other bands play too.
Oh, the KTEL All Stars. Go check them out.
Yeah,
It's the
I was going to after
KTEL
this show.
KT. Go to the KTEL KTEL Allstars.com. It's all one word.
Okay.
KTEL. Remember KTEL Records?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're probably yeah,
I
okay. Well,
vaguely.
that's yeah. I mean, I believe me, you could be 50 and not remember KTEL. I mean,
Right.
it's kind of it's very specific. But there
Mm-hmm.
was this company back in the 70s. I wasn't even around, where they did these compilation records, and they were really popular. And it was all the big hits, and they got the publishing for them, and they were like these big records that came out all the time. The KTEL, top 22 hits, all
Right.
hits, all 22, blah blah blah. And so the whole band is kind of based on the ads for KTEL. It's a cool band though.
That's
So
super cool, man. Like I'd love to see a show of that too. So anytime I get an
okay,
opportunity
yeah.
to, man.
Unfortunately, well, we were supposed to be in Ohio just last week.
Mm,
That got canceled. I can't guarantee when we'll come to the Michigan. That's most of the gigs we play are Vegas, L.A., Arizona, a lot of the West.
okay.
Occasionally, we'll come out to. We had one in Atlanta, um, and one in Ohio. It's all over. It changes all the time. I wouldn't. If you're in California ever, let me know, because I'm always playing, and there's somebody I'm playing with, and it could be
Okay.
KTEL, in LA. But anyhow,
I'll definitely keep an eye out when all this shit settles down, and even if I got to make a trip out to LA, I'll come out to LA.
yeah, it's worth it. You get to see LA.
Me and my wife have
You know,
talked about moving there,
if you're
so it's on one of our places we want to go.
yeah,
So, but
well, it's definitely a place to check out. You know,
yeah,
I've lived all my life, so it's not quite the novelty. Um, like
right,
maybe New York would be for me. You know what I mean?
right,
Uh,
yeah,
but um, yeah, yeah, it's all here, all the history. If they haven't destroyed it yet,
right.
'cause they haven't.
It's on
They have
its
a
way.
habit of destroying their history here in LA.
Yeah, that's true.
They tend to like to tear things down and build something real. Build a mini mall over like really important things, and it's like,
Right,
God, nobody thinks.
right.
But anyway,
Anyways, it was
man,
pleasure having you on. Thank you again,
you're welcome,
and
and I'll talk to you hopefully soon.
yes, sir. All
Thank
right.
you, Justin.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Have a good day.
All right, have a good night.
Bye.